Imagine this. You're on holiday in Thailand. The beaches are glowing. The streets are alive with music and food. And every corner feels like an invitation to try something wild. And then you hear about it, a tiger park. A place where you can get up close to a real, living tiger and take a picture that no one back home could ever top. The thought pulls you in. Not because you're reckless, but because deep down you want that story. That proof. The kind of picture that makes your friends stop scrolling, the kind that earns instant respect. And when you get there, it feels safe. The tiger is chained. Trainers stand nearby, calm, professional, guiding tourists through the experience like it's all routine. People before you walk up, stroke the tiger, pose, laugh, walk away unharmed. Your brain whispers, "See? No danger here. If it wasn't safe, they wouldn't allow it." But here's the illusion. Calm doesn't mean tame, and tame doesn't mean safe. A tiger doesn't lose its instincts just because it's behind a chain. It doesn't care about your phone, your feed, or your ego. It's not playing along with your story. It's living its own. One Indian tourist stepped forward for his chance at that perfect shot. 1 second, he was petting the animal, smiling wide, convinced he was walking away with the ultimate souvenir. The next second, everything collapsed. The tiger lunged, claws flashing, jaws sinking deep. The man screamed, blood spilled, and in a heartbeat, the holiday selfie turned into a fight for survival. And this is where the story gets uncomfortable. Because it's not just about one man and one tiger. It's about us. About how often we gamble with danger for clout. About how quickly illusions shatter when reality bites back. Thailand is built on dreams. It's the postcard fantasy people your age save up for. Turquoise beaches by day, neon chaos by night, and a menu of adventures that promise to turn your trip into a highlight reel. And among those adventures, tucked just a couple of hours from Bangkok, lies something that sounds almost unreal. A tiger park. A place where you can walk up to one of the most dangerous predators on the planet, stroke its fur, and leave with a photo that makes you look untouchable. For many tourists, that's irresistible. Think about the psychology here. Everyone wants to stand out. Everyone wants their vacation to look like more than just cocktails and sunsets. And what's more extreme than leaning on a tiger like it's your pet dog? The environment is carefully designed to trick your brain. Trainers in crisp uniforms stand around like security guards, creating the illusion of control. Tigers lie in the shade, chained, their muscles hidden under stillness. Other tourists laugh nervously, take their turn, walk away fine. The more you watch, the more your brain relaxes. See? Everyone else is fine. This must be safe. But here's the catch, that safety is an illusion. A tiger doesn't stop being a predator because it's in a cage. The chain isn't a promise. It's a weak leash against hundreds of kilos of instinct. And those trainers? They're not bodyguards. Their job isn't to guarantee your safety. Their job is to keep the money flowing, to keep the line of tourists moving. And here's the dangerous part. Once your brain buys into the illusion, you stop preparing for reality. You silence that little voice that says, "This is insane. This is risky." You trade respect for excitement. You lean in closer, smile wider, and convince yourself that you've tamed the wild. That's exactly why the Indian tourist walked forward. Not because he wanted to gamble with death, but because he thought the danger had already been removed. The setup told him, this is safe. This is controlled. This is your chance to borrow the power of a tiger without paying the price. But power doesn't work that way. You can't borrow it without respect. You can't pretend control when control never existed. And the illusion only lasts as long as the tiger allows it. The stage was set. The tourist believed the lie. And the tiger, waiting, silent, patient, was about to remind everyone watching what happens when fantasy collides with instinct. Every story like this has a calm before the storm. And in that calm, danger feels the most invisible. The tourist stepped closer, grinning nervously as his friends cheered from behind the barrier. Phones were already lifted, cameras pointed, because in our world, if it's not filmed, it's almost like it never happened. You could almost hear the captions forming in their heads. Chilling with the king of the jungle. No fear. Once in a lifetime vibes. That's the psychology of clout. When enough eyes are on you, your brain shifts. You stop weighing risk against reality. Instead, you weigh risk against how legendary you'll look if you pull it off. It's not logic that drives you forward, it's ego. And ego is blind. The handlers encouraged him forward. A hand gesture, a quick nod, routine for them. This was just another day, another tourist, another performance in a cycle that repeats 100 times a week. They'd seen people get close, touch the fur, smile, walk away. Nothing had happened. Yet. And that's the most dangerous phrase in human history. Nothing's happened yet. The tiger lay stretched out on the ground, its head tilted slightly, its tail flicking in a rhythm too subtle for most humans to notice. To the untrained eye, it looked calm, almost bored. But anyone who truly understood animals would have seen it. The tension, the alertness just under the surface. That tail flick wasn't laziness. It was warning. It was instinct warming up, like a fuse burning toward an explosion. The tourist didn't see it. How could he? His eyes were locked on the prize, that perfect picture. He squatted down, one hand brushing against the striped fur, his smile widening as the cameras clicked. And in that moment, he wasn't just another visitor. In his mind, he was the main character, the daring one, the one who did what others only dreamed about. But here's the twist most people don't realize until it's too late. When you play with forces bigger than yourself, you're not the main character. You're the side note, the extra, the disposable part of the story. The tiger shifted its weight, its muscles coiling under its skin like a loaded spring. Still, nobody panicked. The trainers didn't move. The crowd didn't scream. The tourists didn't pull back. Because when danger disguises itself as stillness, humans mistake it for safety. He leaned in closer, too close. The line between spectacle and survival was crossed. And once that line is crossed, there's no rewind button. The stage was ready. The tension invisible to everyone but the tiger. And in the next heartbeat, calm would be gone. It happened faster than anyone could process. 1 second, the tourist was crouched beside the tiger, flashing a grin for the cameras. The next, the beast moved, not with hesitation, not with warning, but with the precision of a predator that's been perfecting the art of killing for millions of years. The tiger's head snapped around, jaws opening wide. In less than a blink, its teeth clamped down on the man's leg. Not a playful nip, not a gentle warning. A full-force bite designed to shatter bone and tear flesh. The sound was unforgettable. The rip of fabric, the crunch beneath it, and then the scream, raw, piercing, ripped straight from the man's lungs. The kind of scream that silences a crowd in an instant. Panic erupted. Tourists scattered, some dropping their phones, others still clutching them, torn between fight, flight, and the insane urge to keep recording. Because that's the world we live in now, where even in tragedy, some people think first of the clip. Handlers leapt into action, shouting commands in Thai, yanking hard on the chain, smacking the tiger, doing everything they could to break its grip. But here's the brutal truth. You don't break a tiger's grip. You don't peel away a predator once it decides to hold on. This wasn't a circus act anymore. This was instinct in motion, and instinct doesn't negotiate. The tourist thrashed, his face contorted with pain as blood soaked his clothes. Every pull, every movement only seemed to make the tiger's jaws tighten. The claws raked across his skin, tearing deeper. And in that moment, all the illusions shattered. The cameras, the clout, the ego gone. The only thought left was primal. I might not make it out alive. Seconds felt like an eternity. The trainers shouted, pulled, struck. Finally, by sheer luck or distraction, the tiger loosened its grip, not because it was overpowered, but because it chose to. As if to say, I've made my point. With a final jerk of its head, it released the man, who collapsed onto the ground, clutching his mangled leg. The silence afterward was heavy. Some tourists cried. Some just stood frozen, their faces pale, unable to process what they just witnessed. A few whispered in disbelief. Did you see that? Did you get it on video? Because humans are complicated, even in the face of horror, some chase spectacle. The tiger, meanwhile, sat back down as if nothing had happened. Calm. almost regal. And that's the most terrifying part, because for the tiger, this wasn't an attack born of malice. It wasn't revenge or anger. It was instinct. Pure, automatic, undeniable. For the man, it was trauma that would scar his body and mind forever. For the tiger, it was just another moment in its nature. For everyone watching, it was a reminder, brutal, undeniable, that no chain, no trainer, no illusion of safety can erase what a predator truly is. And that's the core of this moment. Because it wasn't just the man's body that was torn open. It was the illusion, the belief that we can play with danger, borrow power, and walk away untouched. The moment the tiger let go, the scene snapped into chaos. The tourist collapsed to the ground, clutching his shredded leg. Blood poured through his fingers, soaking the dirt, staining the air with the metallic scent of panic. His scream had turned into a broken whimper, a sound that cut deeper than the initial cry. This was no longer adrenaline. This was survival. Handlers rushed in, forming a shield between the man and the predator. Their faces were stone, their movements sharp. They'd seen accidents before, though maybe never this bad. They worked quickly, half carrying, half dragging the tourist out of the enclosure while shouting at the crowd to step back. But the crowd couldn't look away. Some cried, some clutched their friends, others still raised phones, shaky hands recording every second. Because trauma in our world is content. The man was rushed into a vehicle, then straight to the nearest hospital. Doctors scrambled, stitches, blood loss, the grim conversation about whether he might walk properly again. His vacation had shifted from beaches and sightseeing to hospital walls and the beeping of machines. The kind of detour nobody ever plans for, but one that burns itself into memory forever. Meanwhile, back at the park, the show went on. The trainers calmed the tiger, checked the chain, and within hours, the attraction reopened. Because business doesn't stop. The park couldn't afford for this incident to shut them down. Not when tourists kept lining up, chasing the same illusion that had just shattered in front of them. That's the part that stings the most, how fast the world moves on. For the man, this attack was a turning point. A before and after moment that carved itself into his body. For the park, it was a footnote, a liability form, a news headline that would blow over. But in that hospital bed, staring at his bandaged leg, the tourist faced the real aftermath. Not just the pain, but the truth. That the photo he risked everything for wasn't worth it. That the likes, the clout, the bragging rights had dissolved into nothing. That he had gambled with nature and lost, and the cost was written across his body. And here's where the story hits harder than just one man's misfortune. Because how many times do we chase moments like that? Maybe not with tigers, but with choices we know could bite back. We speed, we push limits, we drink too much, we gamble with our safety for the story, for the flex, for the thrill. And most of the time, we get away with it. But when we don't, the price is always more than we expected to pay. That's the aftermath of this story. Not just blood and stitches, but a warning carved in pain. A reminder that some risks leave scars and some scars don't fade. The blood hadn't even dried when the story broke. Local outlets in Thailand picked it up first. Tourist mauled by tiger during visit. The headlines were short, sharp, sensational because in the news cycle, fear sells. Within hours, Indian media caught wind. And suddenly, the man wasn't just a victim in a hospital bed. He was a headline, a warning, and, for some, a punchline. Clips started circulating online. Shaky footage of the attack, screams echoing, the blur of the tiger lashing out. Some people watched in horror, others shared with captions like, "What did he expect?" Or "Play stupid games, win stupid prizes." That's the cruelty of the digital age. Empathy fights a losing battle against entertainment. Meanwhile, the blame game erupted. Fingers pointed in every direction. Some blamed the park for letting tourists get that close to wild animals. Others blamed the trainers, saying they weren't prepared, that they prioritized money over safety. And of course, plenty blamed the victim himself. Why would anyone touch a tiger? He asked for it. But here's the uncomfortable truth. All of them were right, and all of them were wrong. Because this wasn't just about one man's poor decision. It was about an entire system built on illusions. A system where dangerous animals are packaged as safe attractions, where risk is sold as an experience, and tourists are encouraged to silence their instincts because everyone else did it and survived. The park tried to do damage control. Statements about how rare incidents like this were. Promises of improved safety protocols. But underneath it all, the machine kept running. Tickets kept selling. Because controversy doesn't kill curiosity, it fuels it. For every tourist scared off by the story, another was drawn in by the thrill. And the media? They milked it. Interviews, panel debates, hot takes. Each outlet framing the story to fit their angle. Tragedy, recklessness, exploitation. But what nobody wanted to admit is this. We're all complicit. Because the very same people condemning the man were the ones replaying the video, sharing the clip, and keeping the story alive. That's the fallout in today's world. A tragedy isn't just lived. It's consumed. It's packaged, replayed, debated, memed, and forgotten when the next headline arrives. But for the man in the hospital bed, there was no next headline. His life had already changed forever. And maybe that's the darkest part of this whole story. Not that it happened, but that once the shock wore off, once the hashtags faded, the world moved on. While he was left behind with the scars. Some stories fade when the headlines fade. This isn't one of them. Because even if you never step foot in Thailand, never stand next to a chained tiger, the lesson is universal, and it's written in blood. Here's the truth nobody likes to admit. Danger disguised as entertainment is still danger. A tiger doesn't care about your bucket list. It doesn't care about your Instagram feed or your ego. It doesn't even care whether you walk out alive. To a tiger, you're just another body moving too close. And when instinct kicks in, your story, your dreams, your main character moment, all of it evaporates in a single heartbeat. If the story gripped you, press subscribe button and like the video, and don't forget to share your thoughts.